Still helps to turn the mic on. Hey folks, happy Monday. So today, I'm going to talk about a question I got from one of my most recent videos about jumper wires. Now, obviously I have the not quite the smallest polycar track you could put up, because you could just use the half straights right there and it would be even smaller. Kind of proving how small a space you can fit this into, because this is a small table. So, jumper wires, always a question that I get. When I worked for Carrera, I got this question all the time. Let me start off by saying, I'm not an electrician. I don't do any wiring, as you will see in a second. I am not a very technical guy when it comes to that kind of thing. So I'm explaining this in basic terms. So cringe alert, if you are an electrician or if you know about wiring, bear with me. Yeah, this is going to be probably cringy for you. So what I'm going to talk about is how to, in my opinion, how you need to put jumper wires on a set. And also when you might need jumper wires for a set. Why would you need jumper wires to begin with? So for certain kinds of tracks, well, for all tracks really, once a track gets so big, the distance from where the power hooks in, and this track is live, by the way, when the power hooks in to the furthest point on the track, which would be obviously about here. Now, imagine this being a tremendous set, or imagine this being just a starter set. If this was just a starter set, you're going to get maybe 20 to 30 feet of track at the most, maybe. So for that size of track, if you have all the track stuck together really well, meaning no spaces. See, this track is another. I'm going to use this in a second to explain something. This track is stuck together properly. It does not have the joint connectors. There's the bottom. It does not have the joint connectors, so the track would come apart. But it's kind of hard for it to come apart. But anyway, so jumper wires are needed when the power around a track starts to get too low at the furthest points on the track. How do you know that? If a car starts sputtering around, and yeah, I know this is amateur hour here. When a car starts sputtering or the furthest away from the power supply, and you'll see it, that's possibly when it would need one of two things. You need to adjust the braids, or you'd need to have jumper wires. So you'd notice this when the car gets closer to the track, it's going to speed up more. Closer to the connection, it's going to speed up more. And on the furthest point around, it's going to start to do this, or it's going to slow down noticeably. That's when you know for sure you need a set of jumper wires. Well, so the next question is, how do I know that? Well, it's personal taste, really. If you don't mind that the car slows down on the furthest point, then it's no big deal. Because, I mean, we're not getting paid for this. We're not getting graded on our slot car track. This is just meant to be fun. But, at the furthest point on the track, if the car really slows down, is it less fun? Yeah, probably. So what you need to do is you need to install a set of jumper wires. Basically, when someone starts with one set, you don't need a set of jumper wires. If you add in another set, you probably still don't need jumper wires. Again, if the track connections are perfectly seated together. And that means if you have Carrera track, you got to put those pegs in. They snap in place. It's really easy to do. You shouldn't be able to pull the track apart. So let's say then you add a third set amount of track to a track set, to an existing layout. So you're up at least around, let's say, 60 or 70 feet. And the distance, 60 or 70 feet is around the circuit. Now, you can kind of judge, unless you want to measure it, by laying a tape measure down in the slot. Or if you use a track planer, you might know this exactly. When you start to get up about 3 track sets worth of track, 60, 70 feet. And then you'll start to notice a little slowdown, probably. That's about when I would suggest you would put jumper wires in. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that say, oh, it's every 10 track sections, every 15 track sections. Look, I've been doing this for years. Since I started working with Carrera years ago, I don't work there anymore. When I started working for Carrera and I did a lot of the consumer calls, that was, you know, at least, I'd say 50 to 60 calls a year was over the entire year, more so at the end of the year. Hey, I just bought 2 sets for Christmas. Do I need jumper wires? Probably not. Do you notice the car slowing down? No. Then you don't need jumper wires. It's pretty simple. This isn't math. We don't need spreadsheets here, folks. This is, if you see a car slowing down, you probably need a set. Let's say you have 3 sets worth of track put together and you notice the cars are slowing down. Do you need 4 jumper wire sets? No, that's ridiculous. Do you need 1? Yes. Do you need 2? Probably not. I had a big track put up, and I'll show you the picture here, at the Quebec Auto Show, the last year we did it. It was on, I think, a 20-foot wide by 60-foot table, and we had 1 set of jumper wires on that track, I think. We didn't have 2. The cars slowed down a little bit on the back side of the track, but it wasn't really a big deal. And, you know, that was about 90, well, maybe 110 feet of track. I'm not really sure. But we had every track section connected together with the red clips. Everything was stuck together, made nice continuity the entire way around the track. So, you know, yeah, you may want to have, if you have a 70-foot track, 3 sets of jumper wires. Does it matter if you have 2 or 3? Not really, in my experience. I put up a lot of tracks for Carrera. I've done a lot of demos. And that track, because of the steel they use, it's a stainless steel mix. It's not actually technically stainless steel. It's a mix that they do, or their manufacturer does. So, you know, don't get too hung up on exactly how many you need. You need to start off with 1 set. If 1 set gets rid of it, then you're going to be fine. Okay, now where do you put them? And to show how much of an amateur hour this is, I'm using string. I have and I'm using a pair of string here, 2 pieces of string tied together for a reason. Because you obviously need, when you put jumper wires on a track, you need 1 wire per rail. So 2 wires per lane. Now, how do you install them? They go into the spaces, to the gaps, and you can probably see it there. You see there's a gap there on the bottom of the rails. You can put them in the butt ends, but I wouldn't do that, because then that just spread. You can kind of shove the wire up over here, but then you have a wire in the gap between the rails, and that pushes the track pieces apart. So that, I personally think it's a terrible idea. All track pretty much has these gaps under the rails, and you can see the rail is just like a U shape. What you want to do is you want to get the wire, and you want to put 1 wire tab in each rail. Okay? That's how you do this. Make sure it's making good contact. Now, there's different ways of doing this. You can kind of bunch it over on itself. There we go. English, it's tough. And, or you can wire in, or you can solder in like a little clip or something, little springy thing. Again, very technical, I know, guys. So it just kind of makes good contact in there, because that's what you're trying to do here, is you're making good contact and taking power from near the beginning of the track to the furthest point on the track. So on the polycar track, and again, amateur hour, here's my string. Well, what I do is I start with the track piece after or before the track connection system, the track connection. Why do I do that? Because you already have wires plugged into here, and I think it just makes this kind of mess if you have tons and tons of wires plugged into the track connection piece, and that makes extra problems. It makes it more difficult to adjust things. You have to unplug all those, which can be a pain in the ass, pain in the butt, sorry. So what I'd suggest is one track section either before or after. Now for this video, I've put this track section here, but it could just be here like I said. Anyway, so this is one set of wires that you would need for one lane, right? 2 wires, 1 lane. 2 pieces of wire for each lane. And you take that and then you shove it into the furthest point on the track on the same rail, okay? The same rail, because you want to get the power from, or the same lane, I mean, and also the same rail, from one rail to the same rail. Rail 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 lanes, 4 rails. Rail 1, rail 1, rail 2, rail 3, rail 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You got to make sure you get this right, or it'll short the system out. It'll cause the cars, to, especially Carrera cars, the digital ones, they'll hum. I know this from personal experience from wiring it backwards by mistake a few times. I've done it a few times. So you take this wire and you run it from near the track connection piece, near the good fresh power, to the furthest point on the track. What you're doing is you're getting this power directly through the wire to the furthest point on the track, so it's the best possible connection, the most direct possible connection from power supply to furthest point on the track. So if you're doing this for multiple sets of jumper wires, you do this all from one point and they radiate out from there. So you do this from here to here, from here to here, and then if you do another set, you do this from here to here, here to here. So they all start at one place and radiate outwards. Okay, you ask, well, why not do like a daisy chain? Why not start and do this from track to track to track to track to track to track? Now this is where I know one wiring term or one electrical term. This is called stacking tolerances. What you're doing here is you're making a better connection, which is good, between track pieces, but there's still resistance in the track pieces that will bring the level of power down, for lack of a better way to describe this. Again, trying not to be too cringy here, electrical folks. But when you get it to the furthest point, there'll still be less power, right? Because you're making it go through every lane section to this point. Now, while the track power will be better, and that's a good thing still too, so you could do that if you wanted to, but it's still not going to accomplish really what you want, which is getting the most possible power from the track connection section to the furthest point on the track. And when you go around the track then, the car will be nice and smooth. Hey, look at that. I actually do have the car able to go, and as you can see, woo, little lights, yay, lights. Only on the front though, not on the back. Yeah, I know. So like I said, the car will start to sputter when you get around to the back side if there's no power, and then it'll speed up where there is power. So this is kind of what it'll look like, and there'll be good power, and then it'll start to slow down again, and then it'll be better power, and slow down again. Okay, you get it. Sorry, I'm having fun. This car has the magnet taken out of it, by the way. It's at minimum voltage, which I think is 5 volts. So as you can see, I can hold this down the whole way, and the car stays on the track fine. This button doesn't do anything. On the Carrera controllers, this is a boost button, which isn't really a boost, by the way. It's just a keyway to allow you to get the controller down the whole way. But on this system, it doesn't do anything. Anyway, so there you go. Track power wires. Remember, folks, start them from the connection section just before or just after the starter track piece. From one rail to the other rail. From one rail to the other rail. Make sure you don't cross wire them or you're going to screw things up. If you have any questions about what I've explained here so eloquently with my string, high tech, I know, I like string. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. Sorry, I didn't mention this. So, what gauge of wire to use? Again, I'm not an electrical guy. You don't need really heavy gauge, multi-strand wire. I would not use single core wire because it's a little harder to bend, although, I mean, I guess you could. You can use fairly light gauge wire. You want it heavier than obviously the wires that are inside the car, but keep in mind, you know, the guide wires are taking the same power from the track, putting it to the motor. So if those wires are heavy enough for the power, you're not going to need much heavier wire to use for jumper wires. You don't need, you know, huge heavy gauge wire. These are very low amperage systems, right? This is maybe a 1 amp power supply at the most, because these motors don't take a lot of amperage. Amperage is really, and good clean amperage is that oomph that you get. Again, cringy, I know. So you don't need really heavy gauge wire for this, okay? Carrera does make jumper wire. It's just multi-strand wire, very light gauge, with little clips at the ends. It's really expensive. You know, you can find light gauge wire online crazy cheap. Multi-strand wire. I'll ask my friends at Slot Car Corner, because they're sponsoring this video, and maybe they'll reply down below. I appreciate everyone watching. This is a pretty long video, but I wanted to explain it as fully as I could. If I've done a bad job explaining this, I'm sorry. If you have any questions, you can leave the comments down below, and I'll try to answer them. I'll get the guys from Slot Car Corner. I'll get Steve from Slot Car Corner maybe to answer a few as well. I know he's made electrical components for people. I'm not sure if they're still doing that or not, but maybe, you know, they can be of help anyway. So I appreciate everybody watching. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you all very much, and see you soon.